Hello, I'm back with a new video. I'm not going to debunk dumb conspiracy theories today, but I'm going to debunk something equally unscientific, mainly the fact that sex reassignment doesn't work is a claim. I've seen two websites that people usually uses to push this, mainly heritage.org and the Ben Shapiro site. So they refer to a Swedish study. The most thorough follow-up sex reassigned people extending over 30 years and conducted in Sweden where the culture is strongly supportive of the transgender document their lifelong mental unrest. 10 to 15 years after surgical reassignment, the suicide rate of those who had undergone sex reassignment surgery rose to 20 times that of comparable pairs. So basically, they're trying to say that it's higher, the suicide rate is higher post-op than pre-op, right? Shapiro website, I think they used the same research or the same study. I don't know because when you click the link, it doesn't show up. So that's kind of a bummer. But on the other 2 points, I might make a video on the children and transgender thing, puberty blockers and so, let me know. And of course, transgender regard is silly, but I don't think you prove that it doesn't work by having one person explain it doesn't work. That does really, it's not a strong argument. So let's take a look at what the Swedish study actually found out, and I linked it. So, the overall mortality of sex reassigned persons was higher during follow-up than for controls of the same birth sex, particularly deaths from suicides. Sex reassigned persons have an increased risk of suicide attempts. Comparison with controls matched with sex reassigned use similar results. So yeah, it's higher than the general population, which we know. And I think the conclusion here is important. Our findings suggest that sex reassignment, although alleviating gender dysphoria, may not suffice as treatment for transsexualism and should inspire improved psychiatric and somatic care after sex reassignment. So as you can see, this study actually says that yeah, sex reassignment does work. It helps on gender dysphoria, but there needs to be more follow-up, like therapy and so on after the reassignment, which is the standard now with the Dutch method and so. This is a very old study, and there's also an interview with the main person behind it, which I will link. She's really frustrated with how people interpret the study, especially as she's right here. It's therefore important to note that the current study is only formed in respect to transsexual persons' health after sex reassignment. No inferences can be drawn as to the effectiveness of sex reassignment as a treatment for transsexualism. In other words, the results should not be interpreted such as sex reassignment per se increases morbidity and mortality. Things might have been even worse without sex reassignment. There's another study that people try to use to show that sex reassignment doesn't work, and this kind of stems from people's inability to read, which is really frustrating. But let's take a look at table 5, which is the interesting one here. So we see lifetime suicide attempts per responses about transition-related healthcare. So we can see it's 40% pretty much across the board, right? Even those who had surgery, those who have not and don't want it. But the important thing to note is that it's lifetime, so that attempt could very well have been way before the transition, right? A 16-year-old could have attempted suicide and then transitioned when they were 22, and they would still have been in this as have had it and will be under that statistic. And they even write about this, so. Table 5. Respondents who said they have received transition-related healthcare or wanted it to have someday were more likely to report having attempted suicide than those who said that they did not want it. This pattern was observed across all transition-related services and procedures that were explored in the NTDS. The survey did not provide information about the timing of reported suicide attempts in relation to receiving transition-related healthcare, which precluded investigation of transition-related explanations for these patterns. All right, we can't explain the suicides based on the transition to hormone treatment and such. So we found out that there's really nothing that proves that the sex reassignment doesn't work. But is there anything that shows that it does work? Well, I'm happy to show you that yeah, there's at least 2 studies that are very good data because apparently people don't like it when they ask the people that are transitioning if they feel more happy before and after. That's not valid, so let's just look at the statistics instead. So this is about trans people in Ontario and their suicide rate. So finally, medical transition status was significantly associated with suicidality. Past year, serious consideration of suicide were highest amongst those who were planning medical transition. 55% considered suicide in this group, significantly higher than among those who had completed transition or among those who were not planning to do so or did not need. Thus, planning or impulsive medical transitions also had a very high prevalence of past year attempt 27 and 18, each significantly higher than prevalence of attempts in the two other groups. 1% among those who completed medical transition and 3% among those who not planning a transition, of whom the concept did not apply. So we can clearly see that pretty good results here from the sex reassignment. This next one is from Belgium, and remember all these are linked in the description. So although the suicide attempt rate dropped significantly from 29% to 5.1%, it was definitely higher than the average population. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit later, but also conclusion here, SRS, sex reassignment surgery, proves to be an effective therapy for transsexuals even after a longer period, mainly because of its positive effect on gender dysphoria. Now, let's think where does suicidality come from then? Clearly it is a gender or hormone treatment because that works, right? Well, thankfully a study that we have already shown, the Williams Institute one, talks a lot about this. So let's see here. Two interrelated risk factors appear to be the most strongly related to suicidal behavior among transgender and gender non-conforming adults: rejection, discrimination, victimization, and violence related to anti-transgender bias and serious mental health conditions, excluding gender dysphoria, of course. In this study, we found a markedly high prevalence of lifetime suicide attempts among respondents who have reported experiencing stresses related to anti-transgender bias and among those who are reporting having a mental health condition that substantially affects major life activity. In addition, analysis suggests that these two sets of risk factors are closely related. So yeah, turns out being denied your identity is really bad for your mental health and may lead to you committing suicide, which shouldn't surprise people, but apparently it is kind of hard for some people to get this. But yeah, thanks for watching. Let me know if you want me to make videos about something. I think I'm gonna do one, as I mentioned, about children and puberty blockers and such. So thanks for watching.